Hi, everybody. Are you considering purchasing a home here on our Gulf Coast? You maybe have been thinking about it for a while, but in your particular case, you're worried about some of the long-term carry costs of a home or maybe hidden costs of a home that you're not aware of. Maybe a first-time buyer or maybe looking at an investment home. Our coast is a little bit different than other parts of the country. So in this video, I want to give you an overview of different, we may say it's hidden home costs, something that's going to come up after you buy. But actually, if you inform yourself, which I always do, inform my buyers, whether you're looking in Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Englewood, Venice, Sarasota, Northport, Bradenton, Anna Maria Parish, Lakewood Ranch, there's certain expenses involved in owning a home, villa, condo, and I'm going to cover what those unexpected costs may be in this video. Hi everybody, it's David Zakos, broker owner, Zakos Realty and Design. Along with Ryan and our team here, we have helped literally hundreds of people buy homes in our area, sell, buy over the last, 7 or 8 years. Prior to my real estate career, I was a deputy detective here, school resource officer, and I served this community for 25 years. I have built my reputation on honesty and integrity, and our firm, Zakos Realty and Design, is based all about those integrity, honesty, and being upfront with our buyers and sellers. The way we do business is part of our success and the reason why we're growing. We are always honest with our clients. All right. When it comes to buying a home, villa, condo in our area, what may be some of the hidden costs or unexpected costs when you're purchasing in our area? It's typically property taxes, HOA or condo fees, and then maybe maintenance and some repairs. All right, let's talk about property taxes on our homes. They may be lower for the first year that when you buy it, and then after you've owned it for a year or so, the taxes go up. Now, why is that? Okay, the way property tax here in Florida is assessed, it's assessed in the rear, so you pay it at the end of the year, and it's related to a formula they come up based on the market value. When a home sells, a couple main reasons you may have lower tax for the first year or so is one is because you're buying a new construction home. A new construction home, if it's not substantially complete as of January 1st of the year that you purchased it, it may have been assessed only on the lot value. Every year, January 1st of the year, this is when they assess the value. So whether it's a vacant piece of property, a home under construction, that's the date that they determine the value for that tax bill that comes out at the end of the year. For example, if your new home was under construction on January 1st, 2025, and let's say the block was up, maybe the roof was going on, but it's still months and months away from being complete, the jurisdiction is going to set the value of that property tax for your home that you just closed on in July or August or wherever you buy it this year based on the value of that piece of property January 1st of 2025. And that's only going to be on the land value as in this example. The completed home now, July, August, September, wherever it may be, fall and year, now that it's complete, come January 1st of 2026, you're going to be assessed on that complete value of that home, the lot, using their formula they come up with. So your first year, what you pay to the builder when you close on that, what's prorated, is going to be less than what it will be next year. All right. Another reason you may see your tax rate a little bit lower and sometimes substantially lower the second year you've owned as opposed to the first year is because you're purchasing a home that was homesteaded by the previous owner. And they've been homesteaded for, let's say, 20, 30 years. They bought that home years and years ago. A lot of times people retire here. They purchase a home. They hang onto their homes for years. That taxes on that home is going to be substantially lower for two reasons. One is homestead. If it's homesteaded, automatically almost every time $50,000 or thereabouts is taken off the assessed value. And then in Florida, what we have is the Save Our Homes cap. So that means if you stay in your home, you bought it 20, 30 years ago, the tax on that assessed value can only increase by 3% per year. And so there's a huge savings that can grow year after year of you staying in that house. Assessed values, as we know in Florida, have gone up dramatically over the last 5 or 10 years, and you're still paying tax. The previous owner is still paying tax on a much lower valuation. So you've got a huge difference in this particular example. Cap savings is $344,000, and they've had this home for a number of years. So we're paying $750 in real estate tax in 2014. And 10 years later in 2024, they are only paying $900. So as a new owner, if you took over a property like this, you're going to see a significant increase on the property tax based on the new home valuation. If you have any question on whether the home you purchase has been homesteaded, you'll be able to find that on the listing sheet. Your agent should be able to provide you with a listing sheet, either by text or in person when you meet with them. You can easily see it's either yes or no, it's homesteaded. And if it's homesteaded, then you may want to look into that a little bit further, find out what to expect for your tax the following year. All right, let's talk about CDD. Now, this is something that should be disclosed on every home, whether it's a new construction or resale. There's a field in the listing that tells you whether or not this home, the home you plan to purchase, it does have a fee for the community development district. This is always disclosed and should be disclosed on every resale and again on every new construction. Any new construction, there may be an addendum that you have to sign in addition to all the other contracts that you're signing. You may also look this up on the property tax. On any home you view, you can go to the county's website, look at the county tax, and you can see, as in this example, the total tax bill and the CDD portion of this particular home is $1,626.40 for this home in Lakewood Ranch. All right, one more factor to look for in a home that you're purchasing to determine, if there's any maybe fees you're not sure about. If the home is located within the city jurisdiction, in addition to the county tax, you may have assessments for the city. Now, this should all be disclosed on the tax bill, but if it falls within the city of Venice, let's say, or Sarasota, or Northport, then you're going to have additional fees different from a house that's not in the unincorporated area of Sarasota County, Charlotte County, or Manatee County in the area that we represent. As a rule of thumb, I give people a good guidance as far as how much to expect for your tax bill. You can use the figure about 1.25% times the purchase price, and that'll give you a good rule of thumb as far as what to expect the first year in taxes when you're fully taxed. Now, if your home is in a community development district, it's in the city where there's additional assessments, then you may want to add another 0.25% to that to get a rough idea where your taxes are going to fall. All right, now let's talk about HOA and condo fees. Now, not all homes are in HOAs, and obviously, if you're buying a condo, you kind of know there's condo fees. But if you're looking at a home and it's in an HOA, you have to expect there's going to be expenses to that. And that's one reason, actually, a lot of buyers will reach out to me and say, hey, Dave, I do not want to be in an HOA. I don't want to pay high HOA fees, because you can see them all across the board. Sometimes they're as low as $20 or $50 a month, and sometimes they're as high as $400, $500, $600, $700 a month. So this is something you really need to know about and look at if you're purchasing a home within a HOA. These fees are going to be disclosed on an HOA rider or a condo rider. So if you're considering a home, you can ask for that rider up front, and it should fully disclose on that rider what the monthly or quarterly or annual fee is. In addition to the annual fee, quarterly fee, or monthly fee that HOA or condo charges, there's an additional section that will lay out, are there additional fees that are required of you when you purchase this home? Is there any special assessments? Are there more than one HOA? Is there a master association, maybe a second or a third HOA that you're required to pay? That's all going to be on the backside sheet of that HOA. And if there's any special assessments, that should also be disclosed to you. Make sure that there's no hidden fees that you're not aware of. It should always be disclosed to you. So make sure you ask for that information up front. An example, as in this one, you're buying a home in a villa that's in a separate enclave inside the community. So it's going to have separate fees. In this particular case, $628 per quarter. So ask your realtor, what is that for? What's that $628 per quarter cover? Does it cover grounds maintenance? Does it cover exterior maintenance? Does it cover roof replacement when the time comes? These are all important questions for you to know. There is a special assessment. You find out there's a special assessment coming, find out what is it for, and then you may be able to actually negotiate that in and have the seller pay for that. So on some of these villas that we've been selling or buyers have been buying, there may be special assessments because of storm damage, because insurance rates have gone up. May be implementing this over a period of time. Maybe it's over a year, 2 years. But make sure you find out if there's any special assessments, what they're for, when the due dates, and we'll do our best if we're representing you to get the seller to pay for those. Now, this is especially true if you're considering a condo, because there are a lot of condos on our coast. They're right along the Gulf, right? Many condos are Gulf front, bay front, and because of that, they may have had storm damage over the last few years. So if you're purchasing a condo, make sure you know if there's any special assessments coming up. It's actually a requirement now to provide the minutes for the previous 12 years. So if there's even any discussion about raising or adding a special assessment, coming up, you should be able to find that information out if you look back over the minutes, and that's something that we're going to do for you so you don't have any surprises when it comes time to close or when it comes time to sign the contract, or hopefully not after you sign the contract. But there's always requirements. There's actually a 3-day period where you have time to review, even if you went to contract, to make sure you get all these disclosures and everything when it comes to a condo. All right, capital contribution. That's one more fee maybe you're not aware of. All right, when you buy into a new construction community, there is almost always a capital contribution. This is an extra fee that the builder puts on that they want reimbursement for, the amenity center or developing the roads or whatever they want to use it for, but it's called a capital contribution. And that's typical. You're going to see that on the HOA disclosure. You're going to see that on the builder disclosure. In a particular example here, you see that capital contribution of $1,000 or so is due when you close on a new construction home, and if you're the first owner in a community. But let's say you're going to buy a home that's just a few years old, maybe 5 years old. Is there a capital contributions that you now have to pay as well? Well, yes, sometimes there is. In this particular case, I've got this example here. It's actually $5,000. So you need to know that. Make sure you find out if there's any capital contribution that's due when you purchase a home on a resale. Will the HOA fees increase after you close on your home? Well, typically, if you can guarantee if there's an HOA, it's probably not going to go down over time. It's probably likely going to go up. And that's because of administrative costs, insurance costs, maintenance costs, everything seems to rise. Now, what sometimes can happen in a new community, and it's particularly true with new communities, is that the builder is managing the HOA, and they've managed the HOA, let's say, for 3, 4, 5 years while they've been building out the community. Now, when it gets close to completely building out the community, after sometimes before, they will turn that HOA over to the residents of the community. And the residents then will govern a board, decide if they're going to manage it themselves, or going to hire an outside service. The builder may then have subsidizing that HOA by putting in money and keeping that low. So then now when they're no longer involved in paying for a portion of that, you may see an increase in your HOA. So if you're buying into a new community, just try to find that information out. It's not always possible to know in advance, especially if it's in the early stages. Just kind of know that if you're buying into an HOA, likelihood that the HOA is going to go up over time. We just don't know how much. All right, let's talk condos now. There's a number of factors contributing to the higher condo fees associated over the last few years, things that you need to know if you're buying a condo and where the fees may be coming. Any special assessments from the recent hurricane damage over the last few years, or for increase in insurance over the last few years. This often is taking the form of a special assessment that now is going to the current owners of that condo. It's especially important if you're buying a condo that's 3 stories and above, because there's certain inspections and requirements now for all these. The legislature passed in 2022 a bill that requires that there's milestone inspections, structural integrity studies, reserve studies that are part of every condo being certified by the state. And as a result, these studies cost money. These engineering firms have to be hired to go in and look at things, and there may be deficiencies that were discovered. And now all this has to be added in, taken into consideration. So if you're buying a condo, that requirement went into place. All the condos had to have that done by 2024. So you're buying here now in 2025 and moving forward, you should know all this information. One way to find out is, again, looking at the condo riders, looking at the minutes, getting the budgets and the proposed budgets. So make sure you look into all of that to see what has happened and what you expect over the next few years. All right, let's talk about another cost of owning a home, which is maintenance and repairs. Once you own a home, there's no landlord to call when maintenance or repairs are due, so that falls on you. As a result, I work with many buyers who prefer to buy into a maintenance-free community or enclave of a community to keep that worry and expense of many items like the roof, the lawn, the irrigation, the landscaping, because that's all included and they don't want to worry about that. They don't want the expense of that. However, even if you buy into a maintenance-free section, you're still responsible for the air conditioning, the appliances, anything from the drywall in typically is what you own in a condo. If you own a single family home, maintenance and repairs fall on you. On a personal side of things, in addition to being a realtor and being in and out of the houses over the years, I used to build, buy, renovate, and I've done so with many homes over many years. And so I know what to look for in construction and maintenance and upkeep. So when I walk through a home with a buyer, I'm always looking for signs of roof leaks, plumbing leaks, deferred maintenance, poor renovations, so that we can take a quick look in advance to know if there's going to be any hidden costs in this. Sometimes we can even spot that before the inspection takes place. A couple examples of expensive repairs, homes that you may purchase are plumbing costs. Now, some of the older homes in our areas have copper plumbing. Many times that has to be replaced. And if it has not been replaced, you can expect a big bill of maybe $7,000 to $10,000 to swap out that copper plumbing when the time comes to be replaced. There are a lot of value in some older homes, older neighborhoods. My part, of course, will tell you that I love older neighborhoods. I love the architecture, and I love most of the time, the location that these homes are built in. But when you're looking at an older home from the 50s and 60s, or even older, there's things you have to consider. In addition to the copper plumbing, is there cast iron plumbing? This can be a bit expensive. That has to be lined or repaired or replaced. I mean, you're talking $5,000 to $20,000, depending on whether you coat those drain lines or pull them out and replace them. Roof, of course, we know is a big expense in our area, so that's a big concern. When I walk a home for a buyer, if I suspect a problem, I'm looking at the outside eaves. I'm looking at the ceilings and the closets to see if there's any sign of any possible leaks or problem. Roof repairs, we most oftentimes can get these negotiated and have the seller pay for them or seller replace the roof. But you need to know that, roofs are an expensive item, and if it's at the end of its life, it can be a $20,000 bill. It could even be a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 plus, depending on the size of the home and the type of roof. Depending on other things to take into consideration that need repairs, you need to look for is electrical repairs. These are very common when you're purchasing a home. You may not realize that, so we need to look at the electrical box, make sure it's certified. Sometimes there's been some recalls on those. Sometimes the wiring, people did additions that may not have been to code. So these are all things we got to look at and make sure they're done properly. A lot of times we can rectify these when you purchase. If we have a home inspection and these are called out, they're deficiencies in the 4-point, we have the seller paid for those. But when you buy a home, you need to know about these things. So these are things to look for when you're touring a home. If you're buying a home that has a well and a septic, a lot of times in a no HOA or in a more remote area, let's say you have acreage, you got to expect to have a well and a septic. But what we need to look at and take into consideration, has there been any flooding on this property? Has that maybe taken its effect on the drain field? Is the drain field compromised? How old is the well? Has the well been maintained? The age of the pump? So these are big expenses when they come up. If you're considering a home with a well and a septic, to replace a septic or drain field, that can be $15,000, $20,000. To replace a well pump, maybe that's $2,500 to $5,000. If you need to dig a new well, because sometimes they go dry, these are big expenses, $10,000 to $15,000. Make sure you know what you're getting into, and you can do that by using a trusted realtor. Take your time to look through all the documents your realtor is going to provide to you, including the disclosures, and dig deeper, ask questions, and make sure you understand them. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about any of these items I talked about, I welcome your questions. Feel free to reach out, make a comment. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. I thank you for watching, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. All right, take care.